Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. On the deck of Dewdrop, the light from Clyro's 4's 3 moons glinted off the glass of whiskey in Elias Korr's hand. A biting wind tore across the rocky plateau, carrying the dry scent of dust and a faint, sharp tang, like scorched metal. Elias inhaled deeply, letting the cold chase away the fatigue of 4 months hauling cargo across the stars, from far-flung ports to planets nobody bothered naming. No passengers, no crew, just him, the ship, and the low hum of engines, a lullaby older than his scars. "Vacation," he muttered, taking a sip. The liquor burned his throat, bitter enough to make him wince. "A few days without getting shot at. Too much to ask, universe?" He set the glass down, fingers brushing the faded scar on his wrist, a thin line, a memento from a near-death scrape at the galaxy's edge. Dewdrop sat quietly on the plateau, shrouded in darkness like a heavy blanket, broken only by slivers of moonlight. Elias leaned back in his chair, eyes half closed, chasing a rare moment of peace. But the universe, as always, had other plans. A sharp hiss sliced through the night, like claws raking metal. Reflexes honed by countless deadly jobs snapped Elias upright, his hand moving before his brain caught up. His fingers closed around something small, a gleaming arrow, its feathered shaft quivering, tipped with a silvery liquid that caught the moonlight like a threat. Poison, no question. He squinted, scanning the shadows around the ship, heart pounding but voice steady, sharp as a blade. "Someone's impatient," he called out, letting his words echo across the plateau. "Show yourself, or I'll pin you to a cliff with this thing. And trust me, I don't miss." The wind howled through the crags, carrying a faint laugh, but no answer came. Elias twirled the arrow between his fingers, feeling its weight, light, but perfectly balanced, built to kill. He smirked, a habit when trouble came knocking. "Fine," he muttered. "We'll play it quiet." He stepped out of the ship's light, letting the dark swallow him, ears straining for the slightest sound. A pebble skittered, a breath caught, someone was close, and they weren't friendly. From the shadows, a figure emerged, tall and moving with a hunter's grace. A cloak woven from metallic threads shimmered under the moons, like it was spun from starlight. Elias held his breath as her eyes locked onto him, amber, blazing like the core of a dying star, beautiful and cold as a blade's edge. "You caught the arrow of judgment," she said, her voice low and resonant, carved from stone and wind, as if the planet itself spoke through her. "No one's done that in 3 generations." Elias raised an eyebrow, still twirling the arrow like it was a toy. "Good reflexes, I guess," he said, voice light but cutting. "What's next? A medal, or is this just your weird local hello?" He stepped forward, letting Dewdrop's light catch him. His pilot's suit hugged his frame, scars faint on his arms, marks of flights that were never smooth, fights he tried to forget. He stood tall, not threatening, but ready, like a beast that knew it was prey. The woman knelt on one knee, hand over her chest, a gesture formal but unyielding, like a warrior saluting a worthy foe. "I am Vren of the Starstone clan," she said, eyes never leaving him. "By ancient law, the one who catches the arrow of judgment is bound by fate. I am yours, to protect, to serve, and—" She hesitated, a spark flashing in her amber eyes, pride, curiosity, and a hint of defiance. "To light the skies with you." Elias laughed, a dry sound that echoed in the stillness, like he just heard a bad joke. "Light the skies? Sounds fun, but I was planning to fix my ship, finish this bottle, and catch a nap without alarms blaring." He tossed the arrow down, its tip sinking into the rock, quivering like a declaration of war. "Thanks for the offer, Vren, but I don't need a servant. And I'm definitely not looking to burn down the cosmos. I like simple things, like peace." Vren rose, nearly as tall as him, shoulders broad, stance solid as a boulder. She tilted her head, amber eyes studying him, like he was a puzzle she hadn't cracked. "You're no ordinary man, Elias Korr," she said, voice low but sharp. "I smell battle on you, blood, smoke, steel. Those weapons in your ship." She nodded toward Dewdrop, her gaze piercing like a sword. "Not the tools of a simple hauler, Elias froze, his smile fading, like a light snuffed out in a storm. Good knows, he said, voice dropping, edged with warning. But don't dig too deep unless you want trouble. I don't like sharing my story, and I bet you don't either. He turned, heading back to the ship, determined to end the conversation before it went too far. But the universe, as usual, had other ideas. A distant boom shook the ground, pebbles rattling from nearby cliffs. A red glow flared on the horizon, like blood spilling across the black sky. A Union patrol ship shot down, crashing like a broken comet. Dewdrop's alarm screamed, its radar flashing dozens of signals closing in fast. Elias cursed, hand instinctively grabbing the pistol at his hip. Vacation, he muttered. I really hate that word. Vren stepped forward, gripping his wrist, not hard, but enough to anchor him to the moment. Fate has chosen you, Elias Korr, she said, voice steady, amber eyes burning. Our enemies are here, those who destroy this world, snuff out its stars. Together, we can stop them. Elias pulled free, eyes locked on the fiery horizon. Part of him wanted to bolt. Dewdrop was fast enough to get him out, to another port, another drink, another life where no one knew his name. But Vren's gaze, her almost naive trust, stirred something he'd buried deep. A warrior who once made Union fleets tremble, who tore apart a base to save a handful of lives. He tried to forget that man, but he was still there, lurking in the shadows of his mind. Fine, he said, voice low, almost a whisper, like he was convincing himself. But my rules, no stupid deaths, and I shoot first. Got it? Vren smiled, sharp as a drawn blade. She pulled a curved sword from her cloak, its edge gleaming like forged starlight, reflecting the moons in cold, deadly arcs. Acceptable, she said, and in that moment, Elias knew he'd stepped into a game he couldn't walk away from. He turned to Dewdrop, opened the weapons locker, and grabbed an energy rifle and a few EMP grenades. You know how to fight, Vren? He asked, tossing her a sidearm. Or is it all arrows and fate talk? Vren caught the gun, checking it with a warrior's ease, eyes never leaving him. I know enough to survive, she replied. And you, Elias Korr? What do you know besides running? He smirked, clipping grenades to his belt. I know how to make enemies regret crossing me. As they plunged into the dark, toward the red glow on the horizon, Elias felt his pulse quicken, not from fear, but from a long-forgotten thrill, the rush of battle, of spitting in the universe's face, and living to tell the tale. Elias and Vren tore across the plateau, darkness ripped apart by streaks of light from Union patrol ships touching down nearby. Gravel crunched underfoot, the acrid smell of scorched metal lingering from the downed ship. Dewdrop's radar was locked, screens flashing red. Escape was a pipe dream now. Elias grabbed an energy rifle from the locker, checking its charge with the ease of someone who danced with death too many times. His fingers brushed the barrel, its cold metal a reminder, the past never let go. Plan? He asked, eyes fixed on the shadows closing in, moving with lethal precision. Vren pointed to a narrow ravine, its rocks glinting like crystal under the moons, reflecting cold, jagged beams. Tunnels of my clan, she said, voice low but sharp. They'll lead us to safety. She glanced at him, amber eyes cutting like blades. Unless you want to fight an army. I'd rather live than play hero. Elias shot back, voice dry, but a faint grin tugged at his lips. He adjusted his grip, rifle braced against his shoulder, ready to fire. But as they sprinted toward the ravine, a shadow streaked overhead, fast as a predator. A Union scout ship, its searchlight flooding the plateau, turning night into a killing stage. Elias shoved Vren behind a boulder just as the beam swept past, grazing his hand on jagged rock. He ignored the sting. They're faster than I thought, he whispered, breath short, ears tuned to the distant roar of engines. Metal boots clanged on stone, steady as a death knell. A Union squad emerged from the dark, sealed helmets, red visors glowing, plasma rifles blazing like green flames. Elias counted quick, 12 soldiers, 2 drones hovering above, sensors sweeping, and a 4-legged mech trailing behind, its energy blades spinning, slicing rock like butter. Great, he muttered. A party I wasn't invited to. A straight fight was suicide, even for him. How far to your tunnels? He asked Vren, fingers tightening on the rifle, thumb brushing the trigger. Too far, Vren replied, clutching her curved sword, amber eyes fearless, only cold focus. But I can draw them off. Lead them away. No one's playing bait. Elias snapped, voice hard. He pulled a small device from his jacket, an EMP grenade cobbled together from his days, making Union admirals sweat. You like fate? This is mine. He lobbed the grenade, arm moving like a whip. A blue flash erupted, the shockwave frying the drones. They crashed like shot birds, and the soldiers stumbled, their armor sparking and dying. Shouts filled the air, chaos like a stampede. Elias yanked Vren forward, using the smoke to dive into the ravine, pebbles flying behind them. In the tunnels, glowing stones lit the way, casting eerie patterns on the walls. Warriors, flames, shattered ships, a saga etched in rock. Vren led, moving like the dark was her home, each step silent, a deadly ghost. Elias followed, rifle tight, unable to ignore the grace in her motion, a dance of destruction. No time for distractions, though. His breath came fast, sweat beating, but his voice stayed light, like they were chatting over drinks. You do this arrow thing often? Like weekend hobby? Vren didn't turn, but her shoulders twitched, like she was stifling a smile. Only when my clan needs a leader, she said, pride ringing in her voice, a song without music. The arrow of judgment never lies. It finds the strongest, the worthiest. She stopped, facing him, amber eyes probing, like she wanted to peel back his mask. But you make me wonder if fate got it wrong, Elias Korr. Better if it did, Elias said with a smirk, checking his rifle, charge full, good. I'm no leader. Just good at surviving. And sometimes, making others regret messing with me. He shrugged, like he was talking about a dull day, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the tunnel for pursuers. They reached a vast cavern, its domed ceiling soaring, light from the stones painting ghostly scenes. Warriors raising flames beside Starstone fighters, facing a massive ship, its wreckage strewn across a starry sky. Elias slowed, eyes locked on the carvings, a strange feeling stirring in his chest, like brushing a memory that wasn't his. What's this? He asked, voice low, almost a whisper. Wall art, or someone's story? Vren opened her mouth to answer, but froze, gripping her sword, its blade flashing like a warning. Another hiss cut the air, cold as death's laugh. Elias reacted, shoving Vren aside, but too late. An arrow grazed his shoulder, tearing his jacket, leaving a burning sting and numbness spreading like venom. He growled, raising his rifle, blood hot on his arm. What the hell? Again? From the shadows stepped another Starstone woman, her cloak like Vren's but eyes colder, like ice on steel. She stood tall, bow drawn, a second arrow gleaming silver. Vren, you betray our laws, she said, voice sharp as a blade, each word a slash. The arrow of judgment is mine. This human isn't worthy. Vren stepped in front of Elias, sword blazing, stance like a beast guarding its ground. Kaylees, you break your oath, she replied, voice calm but laced with fury. He caught the arrow. Fate chose, and you have no right to deny it. Kaylees sneered, her gaze raking Elias like he was scrap. Chose a weak human? She spat, fingers tightening on the bowstring. The Starstone clan doesn't bow to outsiders. He'll die, and you'll regret trusting that foolish fate. Elias wiped blood from his shoulder, biting back pain to flash a grin. Weak? Ouch, that stings, he said, voice dripping sarcasm, but his grip on the rifle tightened, eyes calculating distance, angles. But if we're playing fate, fair warning, I don't lose. He glanced at Vren, saw her eyes burning, not with fear, but resolve. The cavern trembled faintly, engines rumbling closer. Union troops were coming, and their time was running out. The cavern shook, dust raining from the high dome as Kaylee's second arrow streaked forward, a silver bolt of lightning. Vren raised her sword, steel meeting arrow with a shower of sparks, bright as fireworks in the dark. Elias rolled behind a boulder, back pressed to cold stone, breath short but mind racing, analyzing like a man who'd faced death 100 times. 2 Starstone warriors fighting over him? Not the vacation he'd planned, but the universe loved its surprises. "Vren, explain!" he shouted, ducking as a stray arrow whistled past, embedding in the rock, quivering like a warning. "Kaylee's is my cousin," Vren answered, voice steady but sharp, her movements fluid as she parried another strike. Sword clashed with bow, metal flashing, reflecting the cavern's glowing stones. "She believes only she can lead our clan against the Union. The arrow of judgment was her chance, and you." She glanced at Elias, amber eyes flickering with respect, doubt, and something he couldn't name. "You stole it. The Union? What's their stake in this?" Elias asked, fingers tight on his rifle, thumb grazing the trigger. But before Vren could answer, a blast roared, close enough to ring his ears. Dust fell like rain, and green plasma seared the cavern, tearing through the dark. The Union had found the tunnels, and they weren't here to talk. Elias cursed, springing from cover, firing twice. 2 soldiers dropped, armor sparking, then dead. He lunged, dragging Vren and Kaylee's into a narrow side passage, rocks scraping his shoulder. "Argue later, survive now!" he growled, shoving them forward. They ran through a stone maze, the Union's pursuit echoing behind, boots clanging, drones whining like killer insects, and the low growl of the 4-legged mech, its energy blades grinding rock to dust. Kaylee's, though glaring at Elias like she'd burn him alive, shelved her grudge to keep pace, bow slung, a silver dagger now in hand. Elias caught her tension. She hated him, but knew the Union was the bigger threat. For now. The tunnel narrowed, air damp, thick with the smell of cold stone and minerals. Glowing rocks traced strange patterns on the walls, warriors raising flames beside Starstone fighters, facing a colossal shadow, like a beast swallowing the sky. Elias slowed, eyes locked on the images, a chill rising, like he'd touched a secret not meant for him. "What's this?" he asked, voice low, almost a whisper, but Vren just shook her head, signaling to move. They hit a sheer cliff, below it a chasm glittering with crystal, sharp as 1,000 waiting blades. No way out. Elias turned, rifle ready, heart pounding but mind clear. Union soldiers emerged, shadows stretching under plasma glow. Leading them was an officer in sleek black armor, voice cold through a filter. "Elias Korr, surrender, and we'll spare the locals." Elias grinned, leaning against the cliff, casual as if waiting for a drink. "Spare? You shot down a patrol ship to find me. I'm curious, what did I do to earn this?" He tilted his head, eyes sharp, but his hand brushed the second grenade in his pocket, calculating distance, timing, odds, 10% survival, if he was lucky. The officer removed his helmet, revealing a face that froze Elias. Jaren Holt, old squad mate from 8 years back, from days blowing up enemy bases on Callisto. Blonde hair now streaked gray, but that cruel smile hadn't changed, like a knife sharpened by time. "Forgot our goodbye gift on Callisto, Korr?" Jaren said, voice laced with mockery, eyes burning resentment. 3 reactors, a Union fleet in ruins. You think they'd let you retire, play hauler? Elias shrugged, though his pulse raced, memories of Callisto, smoke, fire, screams, flooding back. "Just did my job, Jaren," he said, voice calm, but fingers tightened on the grenade. "Why the grudge? You're alive, climbing Union ranks. Congrats. Because you betrayed us." Jaren snarled, stepping closer, plasma rifle aimed at Elias's chest. "You wrecked everything we built, then ran like a rat. Hand over what you're hiding, or I level this planet, starting with those wildcats." He glanced at Vren and Kaylee's, smile twisting. Vren gripped her sword, amber eyes blazing, ready to charge despite the odds. Kaylee stood still, dagger tight, her gaze flickering between Jaren and Elias, like she was deciding who to gut first. "What's he talking about, Elias?" Vren asked, voice low but cutting. "Old news," Elias replied, voice steady, but the weight of the past pressed his shoulders. Callisto wasn't just a mission, it was where he turned on the Union, stopping a slaughter of millions for their power grab. He'd paid in blood, sleepless nights, and a name he'd once worn proudly. "And it's about to get new," he said, hand grazing the grenade, plotting angles. "One blast might buy time, but not escape. Not with Jaren here." He glanced at Vren, saw trust in her eyes, though she knew nothing of him beyond that damn arrow. Kaylee's was different, her gaze icy, like she'd rather let the Union kill him than admit he was fate. Elias smirked, a reflex when things went south. "Jaren, what do you want? A hug or a bullet? I'm flexible." Jaren laughed, hollow, but his eyes stayed locked on Elias. "I want what you're carrying, Korr. Don't play dumb, the Union knows you're more than a hauler. Give it up or I dig it out of your corpse." He signaled, and the soldiers advanced, plasma charging, ready to turn the cavern to ash. Elias felt the cliffs chill at his back, heard drones above, and knew time was up. But he'd been in worse spots, or so he told himself. "Fine," he said, voice light, like offering Jaren a drink. "But heads up, I don't lose." His fingers closed on the grenade, and in that moment, he knew he'd stepped into a game where no one walked away clean. "Jaren, still sore about the old days?" Elias said, gripping his rifle, voice cool but eyes sharp, scanning the Union soldiers raising their weapons. The odds of winning were 0, he knew, but quitting wasn't his style. Vren and Kaylee's flanked him, their amber eyes blazing, wary as cornered predators. "I don't want to kill you," he added, smirking, like he was offering Jaren a drink instead of facing a slaughter. "But I do," Jaren shot back, voice like steel, signaling his men. The soldiers leveled their rifles, plasma charging with a green, ghostly glow, lighting the cavern like a furnace about to blow. Before the first shot rang out, Vren moved, fast as a shadow. Her curved sword slashed upward, severing cables holding massive crystal lanterns on the cavern's dome. They crashed, exploding in a shower of shimmering light, like a meteor storm, blinding the Union troops. They stumbled, shouting, armor flickering in the chaos. Elias didn't blink. He fired 3 shots, precise as a machine, dropping 3 soldiers, blood pooling on stone. "Run!" he roared, yanking Vren and Kaylee's onto a narrow ledge below the cliff, dodging a plasma barrage that shredded the air. They slid down a jagged slope, rocks tearing at hands and knees, but no one stopped. The boom of the Union's 4-legged mech echoed, its blades grinding stone, closer than Elias liked. At the slope's end, they plunged into an underground pool, not water, but a glowing liquid mineral, shimmering blue like a star's core. Surfacing, Elias felt his skin tingle, a mix of pain and energy, like electricity in his veins. He gasped, the mineral scent sharp in his nose, shaking his head to stay sharp. Vren clung to a nearby rock, checking the burn on his shoulder, her amber eyes flashing rare worry, like she just realized he wasn't invincible. "You're not badly hurt, are you?" she asked, fingers brushing the wound, gentle but cautious. "Not dead yet, so I'm good," Elias replied, voice dry, though he winced moving his shoulder, numbness spreading. He glanced at Kaylee's, standing a few steps off, cloak dripping, bow still tight in hand, glaring at them like she could drill through rock. "She still wants me dead, right?" he asked, half joking, fingers tapping his rifle. Kaylee snorted, looking away, wet hair plastered to her shoulders. "On hold," she said, voice sharp as a blade. "The Union's the bigger enemy. But don't think I buy you as the chosen one just because of an arrow." She pointed to a faint glow ahead, where a narrow path opened. "This leads to our clan's temple. There we'll see the truth about you, or you'll die." "Great, a test," Elias muttered, wiping liquid from his face, but his eyes glinted with a thrill, like danger was the only thing that made him feel alive. He stood, checking his rifle, charge full, solid. "Lead on, arrow girl. But if another one flies at me, I won't be polite." They pressed on, the space widening from cramped tunnels to a vast temple, its domed ceiling like a starry night, stone pillars carved with warriors raising flames beside shattered ships, a prophecy in rock. The glow from the walls lit Vren's armor, making her look like a living statue. Elias slowed, eyes tracing the carvings, a strange pull in his chest, like he'd stepped into a story written for him but not his own. A council of weathered Starstone elders waited, cloaks shimmering like galaxies, led by Vren, eyes like twin gems that seemed to strip Elias bare. "You caught the arrow," Vren said, voice deep as cracking stone, echoing in the temple. "But only the flame proves you're the fire starter, the one to shatter darkness, to bring starlight back to Clyros." Elias shrugged, playing it cool, though his pulse quickened. "Not a fan of flames," he said, sarcasm thick. "They ruin clothes, and I'm short on spares." But when Vren gestured, a stone dais at the temple's center trembled, splitting to reveal a strange metal rod, a meter long, gleaming like forged moonlight. It hummed, alive, a low pulse like the planet's heartbeat. Elias touched it, fingers grazing cold metal, and it flared, unleashing green energy arcs, dancing flames that coiled around him. Power surged through him, forcing a step back, breath catching. "What the hell is this?" he muttered, eyes locked on the rod, feeling it stare back. "The Starfire," Vren whispered beside him, awe and reverence in her amber eyes. "Our ancestors' weapon, wielded only by the chosen. You're truly the fire starter." Kaylee stood back, bow tight, eyes flickering between doubt and rage. "A human?" she muttered, loud enough for Elias to hear. "Fate's mocking us." Before Elias could snap back, an explosion rocked the temple, stone shards falling like rain from the dome. Heavy metal slammed the floor, each step a hammer blow to the earth. Jaren and his Union troops had found them, with a monstrous mech, 10 meters tall, black armor gleaming, shoulder-mounted plasma cannons glowing, ready to burn everything. Its feet crushed stone, cracks spiderwebbing out. "Korr!" Jaren's voice boomed through speakers, drowning the rubble's clatter. "Hand over that weapon, or this planet burns, starting with this rinky-dink temple." Elias gripped the Starfire, its energy pulsing in his hand, like a whisper urging him to act. He looked at Vren, saw her trust, then at Kaylee's, still glaring but bow raised, ready to fight. A dangerous grin spread across his face, like he'd found joy in the madness. "Burn?" he said, voice light but edged, locking eyes with the mech's cockpit, where Jaren's Saturday. "Jaren, you haven't seen fire yet. Let me show you." Elias faced the towering mech, Starfire trembling in his grip, green energy dancing along its metal, hot as a star's core. The mech's engines roared, drowning out crumbling stone, and the smell of scorched metal stung his nose. Power from the Starfire surged through him, a living current, heart racing but mind ice-cold. "Vren, tell me what this thing does!" he shouted, rolling to dodge a plasma salvo, green bolts shattering pillars around him, leaving blackened scars. "No one knows exactly," Vren yelled back, voice cutting through the blasts, her sword slicing a drone mid-flight, steel carving metal like paper, movements lightning fast. She spun, amber eyes fearless, burning bright. "Legend says it can torch the sky, wipe out enemies in one burst." "Clear as mud," Elias muttered, leaping onto a fallen pillar, boots skidding on rough stone but holding steady. He raised the Starfire, not thinking, letting instinct guide him. Years surviving on the edge had taught him to trust his gut. Aiming at the mech's arm, he unleashed a green energy beam, blinding as lightning. It hit the joint, shredding armor, and the arm exploded in a shower of sparks, debris raining like deadly fireworks. The Starstone crowd cheered, voices echoing off pillars, but Elias didn't care. Through the cockpit glass, he saw Jaren smile, a chilling grin, like he knew something Elias didn't. "You don't know what you're holding, do you, Korr?" Jaren's voice boomed, smooth with a mocking edge, like a teacher scolding a kid. "Give it to me, and I'll let you in on the Union's biggest secret. Trust me, it's worth more than your life." Elias hesitated, Starfire tight in his hand, its power like a second heartbeat, pounding in his chest. "A secret?" Jaren didn't lie for fun, his words always bled purpose. But the clank of boots and drone hums reminded him time wasn't theirs. He glanced at Vren and Kaylee's, catching their wary eyes, then signaled, voice low, firm. "Side tunnel, left. Move!" They bolted into a narrow passage, stones scraping shoulders, the mech charging behind, feet smashing rock like a wounded beast, metal grinding stone in a primal roar. In the dark, Elias activated the Starfire, its green glow lighting the tunnel, revealing strange carvings. A star map, Clyros 4 at the center, ringed by glowing points like stars, linked by faint energy lines. Vren stopped, touching the map, fingers tracing stone, amber eyes wide with awe. "It's not just a weapon," she whispered, voice trembling, not from fear but revelation. "The Starfire links to the Star Ring, an ancient defense system. Activated, it could dust every ship in orbit, turn the Union fleet to ash. And us if they hit back." Kaylee's cut in, voice bitter, eyes still skeptical, raking Elias like she was hunting flaws in his bravado. She stood apart, bowed tight, ready to shoot them both if they screwed up. "You'd kill this planet to prove yourself human? Or is this just fate's next joke?" Elias paused, breath heavy, sweat mixing with dried blood from his shoulder. He didn't want to be a hero, never had. Years running from his past, living as Elias Korr instead of who he'd been, taught him heroes died young, and he preferred living. But Vren's gaze, trusting, though he didn't trust himself, hit like another arrow, sharper, deeper. She stood there, sword in hand, ready to fight for a world not his, for a fate he hadn't asked for. "Can we aim it?" he asked, voice low, almost a whisper, dreading the answer. Vren nodded, pointing to a path deeper into the temple, where the glow dimmed, like a call from the past. "The ancient control chamber," she said, voice steady. "I can activate the star ring there, target the Union ships without torching Clyros. But I need time. Time's my specialty," Elias said, smirking, though he knew it was a lie. He turned, facing the mech as it smashed through a stone wall, debris flying, dust thick as battlefield smoke. Jaren sat in the cockpit, that cruel grin flashing behind bulletproof glass. Elias raised the Starfire, its energy urging him on, and fired a green beam, blinding bright. It hit the cavern's dome, collapsing it in a deafening roar, burying the mech under rubble, stone and metal mixing in a temporary grave. Dust coated him, choking his lungs, but he didn't stop, pulling Vren forward, heart hammering. But at the next passage, Elias turned and saw Kaylee's was gone. Only a broken arrow lay on the stone, its silver feathers glinting faintly, a silent declaration. He picked it up, twirling it, cold metal biting his skin. "Perfect," he muttered, voice dry, tossing it down. "A traitor. Now it's a vacation." He glanced at Vren, catching the flicker in her eyes, not fear, but disappointment, like Kaylee's had stabbed her faith. "You okay?" he asked, softer, though the grind of stone reminded him the mech wasn't dead. "I'm fine," Vren said, but her voice cracked, hand tightening on her sword. "Kaylee's, she'll come back. Or not. But I trust you, Elias. Fate or not, I trust you." Elias snorted, shaking his head, but a crack formed in the wall he built inside. "Trust me? You're a weird one, Vren." He raised the Starfire, its light guiding them, and they plunged deeper, knowing the control chamber wasn't just a goal. It was a choice that could change everything, or end it all. Elias ran close behind Vren, but his mind lingered on Kaylee's broken arrow, a wound still raw. Had she ditched them, or was she playing her own game? He glanced at Vren, catching her tense shoulders, amber eyes fixed on the tunnel, but her silence screamed louder. Kaylee's had cut deeper than stone. "She'll come back, right?" he asked, voice low, half sarcastic, half serious, knowing the answer wouldn't make things easier. They tore through stone corridors, the Starfire's green glow slicing the dark, lighting ancient carvings, warriors, flames, wrecked ships, a forgotten tale alive in rock. Their footsteps echoed, mixing with Elias's pounding pulse, each beat a reminder that time was slipping. The damp stone and mineral smell stung his nose, but he didn't slow. The Starfire hummed in his hand, its energy a living current, thrilling and tense, like holding a star that refused to be tamed. They reached a vast chamber, its domed ceiling soaring, a stone dais at the center carved with intricate patterns, like the planet's veins. Around it, ancient consoles glowed faintly, blue light flickering, the breath of a machine asleep for centuries. Vren stepped to the dais, fingers tracing stone symbols with a historian's care. The patterns flared, projecting an orbital map in the air, Dozens of Union ships circling Clyro's 4, red dots creeping, ready to rain fire, like wolves stalking prey. Elias guarded the entrance, rifle braced, eyes scanning the narrow passage, ears tuned to every sound. "How long we got?" he asked, voice low, sharp as a blade. "Minutes if we're lucky," Vren replied, fingers moving faster, dancing over symbols like a silent song. Sweat gleamed on her brow, ember eyes blazing, but her voice held steady. "The star ring needs time to sink, it's been dormant too long." Metal boots clanged in the distance, steady as a death march, joined by drone whines and the crunch of crushed stone. The Union had cleared the rubble, faster than he'd hoped. Elias slammed the stone door shut, its cracks from prior blasts a bad sign. It wouldn't hold long. He glanced at Vren, saw her focus, sweat tracing her cheek, eyes flickering with rare worry. "You good?" he asked, softer, almost gentle, though his grip stayed tight. "I'm fine," Vren said, voice hoarse, a faint tremor, like she just felt the moment's weight. She looked up, eyes locking onto him, and for a second, her proud wall cracked. "It's just... I never thought I'd be here, with an outsider, saving my people. You're not Starstone, but you're here, holding the Starfire. I don't know what that means." Elias chuckled, a dry sound in the quiet, like she'd told a strange joke. "Welcome to my world, Vren," he said, checking the Starfire, its energy a second pulse, fierce and wild. "Where everything's a mess, and the best plan's usually no plan." He tilted his head, eyes glinting with sarcasm. "Tell me, if this thing goes off, we live? I'm okay gambling, but I like knowing the odds." She met his gaze, amber eyes like twin flames in the dark. "If fate's right," she said, voice firm again, "we'll live. The star ring was built to shield Clyros, not burn it." "Fate," Elias muttered, shaking his head, a wry grin tugging his lips. "I prefer blueprints, percentages, clear exits." But he shut up as metal slammed the door, cracks widening, dust falling. Time was gone. The door shattered, Union soldiers flooding in, black armor gleaming, plasma rifles glowing like deadly torches. Jaren led them, now in lighter gear, hugging his frame like a second skin. He stepped forward, rifle aimed at Elias's chest, blue eyes cold, unyielding. "You never learned to quit, do you, Korr?" he said, voice like a verdict. "Hand over the Starfire, or I shoot her first." He nodded at Vren, smile twisting, showing teeth. Elias glanced at Vren, saw her fingers flying, nearly done, the orbital map blazing, bathing her in light like a halo. He stepped in front, shielding her, Starfire glowing, green arcs dancing, reflecting off Jaren's armor. "Jaren, you know I don't negotiate," he said, voice light but edged, a blade in a grin. "But I'm curious, what made you sell your soul to the Union? Cash? Power? Or just bored of being decent?" Jaren laughed, hollow, but his eyes flickered, like Elias had grazed an old scar. "Soul?" he sneered, smile not reaching his eyes. "I pick the winners, Korr. The Union'll tear this galaxy apart, and I won't be on the losing side. You should have done the same, Callisto was a lesson, but you're too dumb to learn." Elias shrugged, like they were swapping bar stories, but his grip on the Starfire tightened, ready to unleash. "Callisto was a choice, Jaren. You picked wrong, I didn't." He opened his mouth for more, but a sharp hiss cut the air. A silver arrow streaked from the shadows, pinning a Union soldier to the wall, blood seeping through armor. Kaylee stepped in, bow drawn, cloak shimmering, amber eyes complex, anger, pride, and something unreadable. "I didn't betray my clan," Kaylee said to Vren, voice sharp but less cold. "But this human..." She glared at Elias, eyes narrowing, like she wanted to carve him open. "I still don't trust him. He holds the Starfire, but that doesn't make him the fire starter." Elias shrugged, flashing a reckless grin, though his heart pounded, the Union tightening their noose. "Fair enough," he said, voice breezy. "I don't trust me either. But if you want to live, Arrow Girl, we're a team." He faced Jaren, Starfire blazing, a challenge in his stance. "You, Jaren? Ready to lose again?" Chaos erupted in the control chamber. the air thick with smoke and the stench of molten metal. Elias raised the Starfire, its green energy flaring like a living flame, so bright it made Union soldiers hesitate. He swung it, blocking a plasma barrage, the green arc slicing 2 rifles in half, metal dripping to the stone floor, hissing like venom. Shouts rang out, mixing with the groan of the cavern's dome, but Elias tuned it out. He moved fast, each step a deadly dance, eyes cold and sharp, scanning the room. Vren stood at the control dais, fingers flying over stone symbols with frantic precision, the orbital maps glow painting her like an ancient war goddess. She finished the sequence, and the ground quaked, as if Klyros for itself had woken. Through a crack in the ceiling, Elias saw the sky ignite, the star rings ancient satellites firing energy beams, tearing space apart, turning Union ships to dust, their explosions glittering like apocalyptic fireworks. But Jaren wasn't done. He lunged from the shadows, quick as a specter, energy dagger glowing, humming like a swarm of death. Elias rolled, the blade's heat grazing his chest, tearing his jacket, leaving a searing burn, blood soaking through. He gritted his teeth, swallowing pain, but Jaren pressed, eyes wild, a cornered beast. Vren charged, her curved sword meeting the dagger, sparks flying like a forge gone mad. She forced Jaren back, movements swift but exact, a lifetime's training in every swing. "You won't touch him!" she roared, amber eyes blazing, no mercy left. Kaylee stood farther back, bow drawn, firing a silver arrow, but Jaren dodged at the last second, the shaft burying deep in stone, quivering like a warning. He laughed, dry and bitter, signaling more soldiers to pour in from the corridor, black armor gleaming, plasma rifles glowing. Elias's pulse hammered, blood wetting his shirt, but he had no time for weakness. "We're out of time!" he shouted, voice rough, gripping the Starfire. It felt alive, like it knew what he wanted, life, destruction, or both. He raised it, unleashing a green blast at the ceiling, light blinding him. The dome collapsed in a deafening crash, rubble burying the entrance, trapping the soldiers behind a stone wall, for now. But Jaren stood firm, dust swirling, eyes crazed, plasma rifle locked on Elias. "You don't get it, Korr!" Jaren yelled, voice breaking, like he was pleading with them both. "The Starfire's not just a weapon. It opens a space gate, the biggest resource vault in the cosmos, enough for the Union to rule every galaxy. They'll butcher planets for it, and I'll lead the charge." He advanced, dagger humming, green light bouncing off his armor, twisting his face into a shadow's mask. Elias glanced at Vren, catching truth in her amber eyes. She'd known about the gate, maybe for ages, and kept quiet. A spark of anger flared, but he snuffed it. "Explain later," he said, voice low, almost a whisper, then faced Jaren, smirking despite the pain clouding his vision. "You want a gate? Go find it yourself, Jaren. I'm not your delivery boy for insane dreams." He tapped his wrist device, remotely activating Dewdrop. Through the calm, he heard the ship's engines roar, punching through clouds, firing cannons at the troops outside the temple, explosions shaking the ground, carving a slim escape through the firestorm. "Run!" Elias bellowed, dragging Vren out, Kaylee's trailing, bow ready, her eyes torn between doubt and necessity. They raced through stone corridors, smoke and dust coating them, the star rings blast thundering above, like a god's wrath. Klyros 4's sky blazed as they broke free, satellites firing beams, shredding the Union fleet into sparks, light searing like Judgment Day. But one ship held, a massive Union command vessel, armor reflecting flames, hovering like an immortal beast. Jaren's voice crackled through the calm, cold and venomous. "You won this round, Korr, but I'll be back. The Starfire's mine, and you'll regret breathing." Elias collapsed, knees slamming stone, pain blurring his sight, blood soaking his hand. Breathing stabbed like knives. Vren knelt beside him, steadying him, hands shaking though her eyes burned steady, like she could will him to live. "You don't die," she said, voice hard, but fear crept in, rare and raw. "Fate's not done with us, Elias Korr. You're the fire starter." He managed a weak laugh, breath ragged, blood on his lips. "Fate," he rasped, eyes glinting with fading sarcasm. Or just too stubborn to croak? He looked up, seeing the star ring's beams still firing, erasing the last of the fleet, and for the first time in years, a buried piece of him, the part that once believed in something bigger, stirred. Kaylee stood a few steps off, bow lowered, eyes complex, scanning Elias and Vren. She said nothing, but her silence weighed heavy, like a grudging nod that he might be more than a dumb human. Elias closed his eyes, breath slowing, feeling Vren's hand on his shoulder, warm against the cold of stone and blood. Jaren had escaped, the space gate a lingering mystery, but for now, he was alive, and for Elias, that was enough to keep going. Dreams of Jaren haunted Elias, even in the haze of his wounds. He stood in darkness, that cold smile promising another hunt, the starfire blazing in his hands, not Elias's. The space gate, a mystery he wasn't ready for, loomed like a ghost, whispering Clyros 4 wasn't safe. When crystal light pierced his eyelids, he jolted awake, gasping, hand clutching his chest, the wound a sharp reminder he'd barely scraped through. 3 days later, Elias woke in a small cave, light from ceiling crystals sparkling like trapped stars. The air was cool, laced with earth and a faint, sharp mineral bite, like burnt ore. He lay on a woven plant fiber mat, body aching but alive, a small win, his kind of win. Vren sat beside him, curved sword across her lap, amber eyes soft but sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. She looked up as he stirred, crystal light catching her face, highlighting proud lines. "You live," she said, voice low, like it was a miracle, a victory over a cruel cosmos. "Hard to kill," Elias croaked, hand grazing his bandaged chest. Strange leaves, cool and herbal, dulled the pain with each breath. He winced, sitting up slow, body grumbling but obeying. "What's the score?" he asked, eyes sweeping the cave, stone water jug, glowing crystals, and Vren, steady as the planet itself. "The Union's gone," Vren said, a hint of pride in her voice like a warrior stunned her tale was real. "The Star Ring crushed their fleet, 17 warships, hundreds of escorts, dust among the stars. Clyros 4's free, first time in 3 generations." She paused, eyes tracing him, measuring something. "Because of you, Firestarter." Elias nodded, gaze drifting to a crystal on the ceiling, its flicker like a signal from his past. Freedom sounded nice, but he knew its cost, blood, sweat, shadows that never left. "The space gate?" he asked, voice low, almost a whisper, like the answer might shatter the calm. "Jaren doesn't bluff. He's not the type to chase fairy tales." Vren went quiet, fingers tightening on her sword, eyes wavering, like she was wrestling herself. Finally she touched his hand, fingers warm but strong, a silent vow. "The gate's our ancestors' secret," she said, slow, like sharing a tale she wasn't sure was hers to tell. "It leads to a dead galaxy, off every known chart. Endless resources, minerals, energy, enough to build or break galaxies. But it's dangerous, ancient machines, nameless things. I didn't tell you, Elias, because I feared it'd pull you in. Feared fate picked you for a fight bigger than Clyros. Too late now," Elias said, smirking, half sarcastic, half resigned. "I was in the second I caught your damn arrow. The universe loves dragging me into messes, when all I want's a drink and a quiet nap." He tilted his head, eyes sparking mischief, but beneath lay the weariness of a man who'd run too long. "You know, Vren? I'm no hero. But I hate letting guys like Jaren win." Vren smiled, small but real, her amber eyes glowing, like moonlight through clouds. "You don't need to be a hero," she said, voice soft but firm. "Just be Elias Korr, the one who caught the arrow, who lit the star ring. That's enough for my people to remember." Before Elias could reply, a figure stepped into the cave, footsteps light but deliberate. Kaylee's entered, cloak shimmering under crystal light, bows slung, eyes less hostile but still wary, like a beast not fully tamed. She stood tall, shoulders proud, but something had shifted, a reluctance, like her pride was fighting itself. "My clan owes you," she said, voice dry, each word like a blade she turned on herself. "You saved Clyros 4, though I hate admitting it. But if you stay, you prove you belong. The Starstone don't take outsiders lightly." Elias met her gaze, then glanced at Vren, catching her faint smile, like she knew his answer before he spoke. Belongs somewhere, he muttered, mostly to himself. Not a bad idea, but I'm no good at staying put. Too many gerunds out there, too many gates giving me headaches. He sat straighter, wincing as his wound complained, and shrugged. I'll think about it, Kaylee's. No promises, I'm not big on oaths. Kaylee's huffed, but her lips twitched, a hint she didn't entirely hate him. She turned, leaving Elias and Vren in the cave's soft glow. Elias breathed deep, cool air filling his lungs, and looked at Vren still there, sword on her lap, eyes fixed on him. You know, he said, voice softer, almost warm. I'm starting to think you're right about this fate thing. Not 'cause I believe it, but 'cause it led me here, to you. Vren tilted her head, eyes flickering with curiosity, but she didn't speak, just smiled, a smile that made him forget the pain. Jaren, the gate lurking among the stars. Outside, Clyro's 4's dawn rose, golden lights slipping through stone cracks, bathing the plateau where Dewdrop waited, ready for the next ride. Elias knew he wasn't done. Jaren was out there, the gate a mystery, and fate, however much he scoffed, trailed him like a shadow. But here, with Vren, he felt enough to rest, to fight, maybe even to belong. A month later, Elias stood on Dewdrop's deck, Clyro's 4's 3 moons casting light through the viewport, glinting off the polished metal floor. The ship wasn't just fixed, upgraded, with Starstone tech he half understood, sleeker armor hard as crystal, engines purring quiet but fierce enough to outrun a Union fleet. He inhaled, catching clean metal and a hint of oil, a scent like home, if he'd ever had one. Clyro's 4 sprawled below, rocky plateaus shimmering under moonlight, a canvas of light and shadow. He crossed his arms, eyes tracing the horizon, where dawn crept in, gilding jagged peaks. Vren stood beside him, new cloak woven with crystal threads, sparkling like she carried the night sky. Her curved sword hung at her back, its ornate hilt deadly sharp, a weapon born for war. She tilted her head, amber eyes glowing with curiosity and a spark of challenge. Where to? She asked, voice low but light, like a song without notes, ringing in the quiet cockpit. No clue, Elias said, gaze locked on the stars through the viewport, each speck a promise, or a threat. He shrugged, lips curling in a reckless grin, though he knew nowhere was safe, not with Jaren loose, not with the space gate dangling like a blade overhead. But this time, I want a real vacation. No arrows, no Union, no damn gates crashing the party. Just me, a good drink, and a few days without bullets. He glanced at her, eyes twinkling with sarcasm. Sound doable? Vren smiled, small but warm, her eyes brightening, like moonlight breaking clouds. You and vacations, she said, a teasing edge, but something softer, like she'd learned to read his masks. I'm starting to think that's your biggest dream, Elias Korr, bigger than lighting the skies. She stepped closer, shoulder brushing his, her warmth cutting the cockpit's chill. And if fate finds you again? She asked, eyes locking on his, not pressing, but sharp enough to demand truth. Elias met her gaze, seeing pride in her stance, strength in her eyes, and a rare softness she guarded close. He took her hand, feeling power in her slender fingers, but also warmth, like a vow she'd face the cosmos with him. Then this time, he said, voice low, almost a whisper, but firm. I'll drag it along. Fate wants to play? Fine, but I set the rules. He squeezed her hand, flashing a grin, half cocky, half real, like he just dared the galaxy. Vren didn't answer right away, just studied him, amber eyes digging, like she was hunting what hid behind his bravado. Then she nodded, a small gesture, but enough to say she got it. He wasn't promising grand oaths, but he was here, for now. Your rules, she said, voice light, with a rare playful glint. I want to see them. They moved to the cockpit, Dewdrop's consoles glowing, screens showing star charts and Clyro's 4's orbit. Elias hit the ignition, feeling the engines hum beneath, a familiar pulse like the ship's breath. Vren stood beside, checking a screen with surprising ease. She'd picked up ship tech faster than he'd expected, like she was born to soar, not just fight. You're good, he said, a touch surprised. But don't think I'm letting you fly. Dewdrop's mine. Until I take it. Vren shot back, not looking up, but her lips curved, a sly smile that made him laugh. His chuckle echoed, rare and almost foreign, easing the cockpit's weight, like they'd stolen a moment of peace in a cosmic storm. The hatch hissed shut, sealing them from Clyro's 4. Dewdrop launched, engines roaring, punching through the atmosphere, clouds parting like sea foam under moonlight. As they hit the starfield, Clyro's 4 shrank behind, plateaus glinting in dawn's light, a wordless farewell. Elias stared out, millions of stars stretching endless, each a story, a danger, a chance. He knew the universe was vast, brutal, never kind. Jaren was out there, the gate unsolved, and fate, no matter his defiance, clung like a shadow. But he glanced at Vren, saw her standing tall, eyes on the stars, sword at her back, ready for anything with him. A new vacation, he muttered, hands on the controls, guiding Dewdrop into the void. Let's see how long it lasts. Vren didn't reply, but her hand brushed his shoulder, a small touch, enough to say he wasn't alone. Whatever the universe threw, Union, Gates, or fate itself, Elias knew they'd face it together, light the skies together, or at least survive to tell the tale.